House to Home, brought to you by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
Welcome back, everybody. This is a continuation of last week's episode of House to Home, where we tell you, now that you've got your property properly surveyed, what can you do with it? Gina was not here last week, but she is here now in the flesh. Hello, Gina.
Hi.
Half a day. Okay, so Liz set us up with part one. We were actually out at her place, and she was saying, you've got those little tiny little cute little survey dots are properly placed. You demarcate your property.
Yeah.
From there, how do we actually go about getting a proper printout of a legally binding, I guess is the word, map and everything? And
Map.
what can you do with it?
Well, in order for your surveyor to go out there and mark your boundary points and put down the rebars, okay? In order for him to do that, you must have already had a survey map recorded with the government of Guam. I always describe it to people, it's like your birth certificate. You've got to have that in place.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, you've got to have that in place. If you don't have that, it's impossible. He wouldn't be able to mark your boundary points because you've got nothing. There is no record of that piece of property existing. So let's say you wanted to have the boundary points marked, but you don't have a copy of the map. You go down to Revenue and Bureau of Planning, and you request for a copy of that survey map. And sometimes they could look it up under your name, or if it's in an estate, maybe it's still in the family name. They could look it up under the lot number, or maybe a copy of your tax bill. Bring it down there and they'll pull the map for you. And so what can you do after that? So you have the map, okay, it's already been recorded, or else you couldn't have had your points marked. So you have the map in place, you ask the surveyor to mark it, and that's already been done. So now you know exactly where your properties are, your lot is. You know where it starts, where it ends. Now, what was your intention to begin with? And I always tell people, recently I've been cautioning people, if you're going to go through the trouble of marking your boundary points, do something about that afterwards. Because you saw the little rebar, right? They don't normally put the concrete monuments there unless you pay extra for that. And if you're going to go through the trouble of marking your boundary points and you're not doing something immediately, so you didn't mark it because you're building your house or you're getting ready to give it to somebody else or to sell it. If you just marked it because you just wanted to know where it was, do something so you can protect those rebars. So what my husband and I did on our property is we dug around the rebar. Legally, you're not supposed to move that rebar. Nobody is supposed to mess around with that.
Liz was highly emphasizing that point.
Yeah.
Once those things are down, leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
And if you're doing construction, don't move it out of the way so you can do the construction and then put it back, because technically you never put it back in the right place. So what we did after marking our property twice and wasting money, we dug around the rebar. We got a half concrete block and we wedged it into the ground where the rebar was, and we filled it in with concrete. So the rebar it's kind of sitting there. And it was our way of protecting that marker so we wouldn't lose it, so the contractor wouldn't, bulldoze over it or just dig it out. So that's what we did. So if you've already spent the money to mark your boundary points, do something afterwards to protect it. And then let's say you marked it so you want to sell the property. That's perfect. Because I don't know if Liz got a chance to share with you, a lot of times we get a map and we get a customer who wants to sell, and that's about all we get in the beginning. And then we have to figure out a way to go find that property and get it on the market and show it to potential customers without having those identification markers.
Okay, one question about the map, if I may. When we looked at the map in your office last week with Liz, she was saying there was certification or some sort, someone was authorizing it at the bottom. If we go through like a company like RE/MAX, you have professional engineers who prepare it, certify it and everything. Is that enough, or does it have to also be notarized or signed off by an attorney or something like that? Or is the engineer's
You mean
final?
the map itself that gets recorded?
Yeah.
So when the map is prepared, your surveyor is going to, it's the surveyor that does the certification. And when you get your boundary points marked, he also gives you a certification. So you already have a map. You hire somebody, because more likely than not, nowadays, I hire a surveyor to go mark the boundary points. It's never the same person who did the map, or it's often not the same person. So you hire the surveyor, he will give you a certificate that says that I found the boundary points and I'm certifying that the map is true and correct and the points are marked are true and correct. But if you don't have a map yet, that's what the surveyor does. Doesn't need to be notarized. The surveyor is the one who, he does all the calculations, he prepares the map or the birth certificate, and then he records it with land management.
All right.
The owner has to sign the map.
Well, this is why we're so lucky we have you and Liz and your colleagues come in each and every week, because this stuff is way beyond me. So we
And
do
it's a
appreciate
lot.
the info.
It's a lot. So if anybody needs additional information, they can call our office at 687-8885 is actually my number.
Fantastic.
Or Liz's number.
All right.
We can help.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you
Thank
next
you.
week. And we will see you, my friends, on the flip side of this break.